Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I am Lady Loy, and depending on which part you're watching this video from, I'm not quite sure what time of day it is. So, welcome to Food of the Heart or Food for the Heart, where together we prepare another meal for the part of us that often gets neglected or overlooked. Today's meal is called Negotiating Red Flags. There is something very interesting about the human heart. It can recognize danger almost immediately and then spend the next 6 months trying to explain why that danger probably isn't as bad as it first appeared. We've all done it in one form or another, not because we're foolish, but because every one of us carries needs. We need love, we need companionship, we need acceptance, we need hope. And sometimes those needs become so hungry that they begin negotiating with things they should simply walk away from, like red flags. It is remarkable how quickly the mind can become a lawyer for the heart. What started as a clear warning somehow turns into a debate. Perhaps they are having a difficult week. Maybe I understood. No one's perfect. Before long, what was once a red flag has faded into pale pink. Not because anything has changed, but because we kept looking at it until our eyes adjusted. The heart isn't just looking for facts, it's looking for reasons to keep believing. There is nothing wrong with hope. Hope is one of God's beautiful gifts, but hope becomes dangerous when it starts asking us to ignore reality instead of walking through it. One of the greatest needs behind this subject is emotional safety. Every human being needs to know they can relax in a relationship instead of constantly analysing it. They need to know they don't have to explain away behaviour that consistently leaves them feeling anxious, confused, or unsettled. Healthy relationships bring questions from time to time. Unhealthy relationships make confusion become the normal weather forecast. If you constantly find yourself trying to convince yourself that everything is fine, perhaps your heart is already trying to tell you something your mind doesn't yet want to hear. It's a bit like checking your phone battery. You glance down and see 1% remaining. Instead of charging it, you decide you'll quickly watch one more video, reply to 2 messages, check the weather, and look at tomorrow's appointments. Deep down, you already know how this story ends. Yet somehow, we still negotiate with 1%. We do something very similar with red flags. We keep telling ourselves, just one more conversation, just one more chance. Perhaps this time it will be different. Eventually, we're surprised when the relationship shuts down altogether, even though the warning signs had been flashing for months. Sometimes we mistake familiarity for safety. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's healthy. If you've spent years around criticism, disrespect, or unpredictability, peace can actually feel strange when you first experience it. Stability may even feel boring because your nervous system has become accustomed to drama. That's why healing often feels unfamiliar before it feels comfortable. We shouldn't assume discomfort always means something is wrong. Sometimes uncomfortable means we're finally learning something different. The Bible says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Notice it doesn't say build a prison around your heart. It says guard it. Guards don't hate visitors. They simply know not everyone should have unrestricted access. That verse isn't encouraging suspicion. It's encouraging wisdom. Wisdom doesn't mean expecting the worst in people. Wisdom simply allows actions to carry more weight than promises. Negotiating red flags usually begins when we start valuing explanations more than patterns. Someone apologizes but behaves exactly the same the next week. They always have a reason. It was stress, it was work, it was their childhood, it was somebody else's fault. Compassion listens to explanations, but wisdom watches patterns. Real change doesn't only sound different, eventually it looks different as well. Have you ever been into you have gone to a supermarket, but for one loaf of bread, and somehow you've come out with a trolley full of stuff you never intended to buy. Halfway home, you suddenly remember, oh, I forgot the bread. We were distracted by offers, colourful displays, and things that looked appealing in the moment, and forgot the one thing that we went into the supermarket for. I've done it so many times. Relationships can work that way too. Sometimes charisma distracts us from character. Chemistry distracts us from consistency. Grand gestures distract us from everyday behaviour. We become fascinated by what's on offer and forget the one thing we actually need. Character is the bread. Everything else is just decoration. One of our deepest needs the heart carries is consistency. We all need to know that today's kindness won't disappear tomorrow. We need reliability more than excitement. We need honesty more than charm. We need peace more than intensity. Yet our culture often celebrates intensity as though it were proof of love. It isn't. Anxiety isn't passion. Walking on eggshells isn't romance. Constant uncertainty isn't evidence that someone is worth fighting for. Sometimes it's evidence that your heart has been working overtime trying to make sense of something that simply isn't healthy. Jesus once said, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." And I've often thought that those simple words reach much further than conversation. They speak about integrity. They describe people whose words and actions agree with each other. There is something wonderfully restful about people who don't keep moving the goalposts. You don't have to become a detective around them. You don't have to decode hidden meanings. Their consistency becomes a place where your own heart can breathe. Have you ever spent ages looking everywhere for your keys and they're in your pocket? Sometimes we search everywhere for certainty when our first instinct recognized the truth at the very beginning. We knew something wasn't quite right. We just kept hoping we had misplaced our own wisdom. The truth is, God has given us minds to think, hearts to discern, and spirits to recognize peace. We don't have to silence one gift in order to honor another. If today's meal has found its way into your heart, perhaps nourishment you needed wasn't more courage to keep negotiating. Maybe it was permission to stop negotiating altogether. Red flags are not invitations to become better negotiators. Very often, they are invitations to become a wiser guardian of your own heart. Hope is a beautiful companion, but wisdom should always hold the map. You can be compassionate without becoming a captive. You can forgive without ignoring patterns. You can love people without explaining away everything that continually wounds you. And perhaps today your heart can rest in this simple truth. The right people won't need you to negotiate away your peace in order to keep their place in your life. So I'll leave you with those few words. The long and short of it is simple. When you see a red flag, don't negotiate it away because you're a godly person or because you think you're overreacting or you think it's not that important. Your instincts tell you the truth. And when you see a red flag, it's a red flag. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other until the next meal. I'm Lady Loy. You can find me Fridays on Lovers Rock Radio 7 till 9 and Gold Standard.